you're on.
Oh, all right. How's everybody doing today? This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. I'm host Jeremy. Man, I'm a little off today. How's everybody doing? This is, like I said, Genesee County Compassion Club show. Let's get things rolling today. How are we doing today, John?
Doing really well.
Awesome.
Loving this weather.
Got John in the studios here at allpointstv.com. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about medical marijuana. I'm going to be letting you know what's happening at the Genesee County Compassion Club. Going to be talking about what's happening with marijuana around the country. Get you guys up to speed. Woo! Let's get it on. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got some exciting events coming up. We've had some exciting events recently occur. And let's get into it, all right? This first one coming up here, I want to make mention of. I think this is a pretty spectacular event. The Electric Canna Carnival. May 13th and 14th this weekend out at Flint Auto City Speedway up there on Dort. This is going to be awesome. First time festival. You guys have probably seen the big electronic billboard on 69 there. But looks like a pretty fun event. Electric Canna Carnival. I know we've got some celebrity people coming up and performance. There's going to be a huge amount of concerts. It says here 24 performers. I know we're going to have our very own Kush Is My Cologne performing at the show. There's going to be all kinds of vendors. There's going to be all kinds of fun things to do. And it is hosted by Slipknot's DJ Starscream. So it's 2 days, 24 performers. Admission 18 and up. I believe there's a med tent. Anyways, check it out, guys. It looks like it's a lot of fun. You guys get $30 for a 2-day pass. And let's see here. I know you can check it out on Facebook. Electric Canna Carnival. Oh, here we go. ekk.eventbrite.com. Check it out, guys. This weekend out like I said, at the Flint Auto City Speedway, the same place where they have the High Times Cup at. Definitely recommend checking this out. Looks like a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to talk about that. Next item on the list here. Man, I just feel like it's dry. It's dry today. All right, next item on the list. We've got our G3C. This is our first ever. John, bring up the photo for him, will you? I'm excited about this. This is the G3C first annual Fish Off, Fish On.
I had it loaded up, and then my program decided to kick it off, so I will load it right back, so hold on.
All right, he's going to pop up the poster for you so you guys can see this. If you haven't seen it already, we've got the sign-up sheets and the poster available at the snack bar right there at the G3C. This is going to be a big, fun event. We're doing this on, let's see here, I wrote it down here somewhere, June 11th. This is the free fishing weekend. So in Michigan every year, they do a free fishing weekends where you can go out and fish and you do not have to have a fishing license. So we're doing our event on that weekend, June 11th. We're going to have a $10 entry fee. It's going to be out at the Mott Lake, so not too far from the club. We're going to meet at 8 a.m. at the club, and we're going to start at 9 a.m. start fishing. We have a weigh-in at 2 p.m. We're going to have different categories and trophies available. We've got the biggest panfish, biggest bass, and biggest whatever breed. So if you catch a sturgeon out there or a great white, whatever it is you might find in swimming around in Mott Lake, the biggest fish. But this is going to be a lot of fun. Free fishing weekend, so no license required. Anybody can come out and join. Of course, it's on the water. Bring the kids, bring the family, bring a life preserver. We're going to have boats and stuff. Bring your own boat if you got one. Canoe, kayak, whatever it may be. Bring your fishing poles, your tackle, all that good stuff, and let's get it on, all right? It's going to be lots of fun. $10 entry fee. Like I said, we got trophies for the biggest bass, biggest panfish, and biggest whatever breed. But I'm excited about that. I love fishing. I love getting in the great outdoors here. Michigan's one of the best states ever to be, in the great outdoors. I love it. So let's get this on. Talk to Matt. He's at booth number 4 if you need more details. And like I said, we got sign-up sheets and the poster right there at the snack bar if you want to write this information down, take it home, get everybody pumped about it, and come on out. June 11th, all right? Mark that down. Okay, next item we got coming up here. This is also another fun event, a little bit farther out into the future. But this is the Smoke, Choke, and Float. Going to be tubing down the Rifle River, and that is happening July 14th through the 16th. Going to be doing kind of a camping weekend. The actual tubing will happen on the 15th, which is a Saturday, beginning at 10 a.m. You guys will be on the water. $25 for a 4 to 6 hour trip down the water. You get a deluxe inner tube for your chilling environment, or you can spend $50 for the weekend and camp it out. Like I said, this is in the Rifle River and it is in Sterling, Michigan at the White Canoe and Livery. So you can talk to George. There's a sign-up sheet at the snack bar also for this, and also posters at the check-in station security booth. But another fun-filled event. I know they did this last year. I heard a lot of good times were had. So mark this down. July 15th for the canoe trip, 14th through the 16th for the whole camping weekend. It is the Smoke, Choke, and Float. So kudos, man. That looks like a lot of fun. Is that the poster, John? I hear dinging. All
I'm gonna
right.
pull that up, right? Yeah, hold on here.
I'm going to pull up the poster here for the fishing event.
I got it, yeah.
There you go. Take note. All right. Thank you, John. Cool. All right. Other events coming up here. We've got our annual G3C golf outing coming up here in August. Mark your calendars for that. And of course, here at the end of this month, last Friday of the month, we'll be having our regular monthly soup kitchen down at the North End Charities. So mark your calendar for that. We do need volunteers for the soup kitchen. So if you guys are available last Friday of the month, you can definitely use your help. All right. That's it for the events. That's quite a bit going on. Of course, there's one other main event coming up here real soon, talking about moving. And we're going to be doing that here at the beginning of June. So I know that the announcement's been made at our regular club meeting, monthly meeting. And I want to announce it here on the podcast as well. The G3C is moving. We are moving to a new location. It's just down the road, about 5 minutes away from where we're currently at. It is on Genesee. The address is 6340 North Genesee. We've got that marked down at the club. You can Google it so you get your map ready. We're still currently at the old location, and we will be there throughout the month of May. And we're hoping to be in there and open and rocking very beginning of June. So actual dates will be coming soon. We're just waiting on wrapping up a few items, but this is going to be huge. We've got a brand new facility. We're talking about close to 15,000 square feet of space for the club. We're going to have enhanced services across the board. So it's going to be a whole brand new place, and we know what you guys love, and we're going to bring it for you. So, all right, so that's the events, that's the announcements. Let's move on. We're going to talk about the news. We've got lots of stuff going on here. First of all, let's get involved and let's talk about Michigan. Michigan going to be racking it up here for recreational marijuana. The language was just recently submitted for recreational marijuana. They're hoping to get this on the ballot in 2018. They're going to need to collect signatures, as in they have, in previous ballot collecting efforts. So they're going to need signatures to get this on the ballot. There is a small chance that the legislature they do have the opportunity to just go ahead and approve the bill and turn it into law without it having to go through the ballot process. But I doubt that'll probably happen. They'll probably turn it right over to the voters. And should they do so, then we're going to need to be signing forms so we can get this on the ballot. And then, a couple years from now, get a chance to actually vote on it. But it's been a long time coming. I think this is the most recent event. I know that this language has been approved by numerous marijuana supporting organizations across Michigan, like MI Legalize. I believe Safer Mich has also endorsed this. I believe MI Normal has endorsed this. I believe ASA, Marijuana Policy Project. So we've got a lot of support behind this language. I've heard good and bad things about it, but I think the important thing is that people aren't getting arrested for something that hurts no one. I think that's the most important thing. In addition to that, additional protections for patients, simply because of the fact that it's legal. I mean, that goes hand in hand. So obviously, a lot of folks looking to jump on the bandwagon here as far as economically speaking, but I think most people have already been on this bandwagon for quite some time, and it's about time that our laws reflect our public opinions and policies. And it certainly has been shown overwhelming support for adult legalized marijuana use in Michigan. We've had numerous MRSA polls come out over the past few years. We've covered them on this program here. Overwhelming majority support has been shown almost every single time that it has been asked. So the support is there to have it happen here in Michigan. We've seen it happen in, I think, 5 other states already across the United States, and Michigan is looking to jump on the bandwagon. So maybe we'll see this happen. Keep your eyes and ears open. Watch for those ballot proposals getting carried around. They're not out yet, so if you're worried about collecting signatures and so on, it's coming, but it isn't here yet. So hang on, keep your eyes open. Like I said, any information that comes across, we'll be sharing it with you here on the podcast. Okay, so that's what's up with Michigan.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead, John.
Okay,
Shoot.
somebody might be just watching this podcast and they're on board for medical marijuana or maybe for legalization. And they do, maybe they just came into an area, maybe they come into this area. If they want to get involved in something like this, would you encourage them to join the Compassion Club, or would you encourage them to join the legalization efforts? So give that information out there. I mean,
Well, thanks for asking that question, John. I appreciate that, because that is a good question. Where do you go to get involved? There's a number of different groups out there that you can go to actually get involved with this, and I would recommend the Michigan Safer Group, MI Normal, and there's even other groups too. You know, the simple, beautiful function of technology today is Google. So seriously, get on Google, type Michigan recreational marijuana, and you're going to see all kinds of stuff pop up. Our Compassion Club, the Genesee County Compassion Club, we are for medical marijuana, and that's what we deal with. So you're not going to get much more information than what you just got from me regarding legalization. So, I mean, that's just how it is. We deal with one thing, that's what we do. But we certainly support efforts for legalization. I don't want to give any type of qualms about that. It's just that we're not the place that gets it done. Other places are. That's what they do. So, am I safer? Am I normal? Am I legalized? These are all the places that you want to look up and lend your support to if that's your thing. So, that's where you want to go. All right. Let's move on here. Let's talking about other areas of the country. I know that, of course, before I do that, I'll make mention of the fact that we have multiple townships across Michigan, multiple cities now reviewing their books, if you will, potentially setting up areas for discussion when it comes to medical marijuana processing facilities. Of course, we're talking about the dispensary licenses, we're talking about the growing licenses, testing labs, and so forth. I'm not going to get into covering each individual township because there's so many of them right now, and they are across Michigan. The majority of what I have seen so far is that the townships are saying, yes, we will look at this, but the time is not right yet. We need to see what the state's going to do first. There have been some communities that have gone ahead and said yes, and there have been some that went ahead and already said no. One of those, I believe, was our own community right here in Genesee County, Fenton. And I believe Fenton's response was, we're going to wait and see what the state says, and at this current time, we're not doing anything, we're not licensing anything. So this is going to be an ongoing thing, probably for the next 2 to 3 years. All right, it's going to be a long, drawn-out process, but as it gets unveiled, we will be sharing that information with you guys right here on the program. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about some other stuff. Before I get into other states and what's going on with their marijuana, I wanted to show this off because I thought it was sweet. I've always had a heart for woodworking. I think it's just something that's beautiful, and I think that it's almost becoming a lost art. But apparently it is not lost. And the gentleman that wrote this book, which we talked about on our last podcast, Mr. Mike Shepard, which this is a great book, Envy with Green, talks about homegrown sobriety, as you can see on the cover. But what it is it's beating an alcohol addiction with something that's far better for you, and that's cannabis. Check this book out. Anyways, the author was elated with the club. He loves the club, and we really appreciate that. And he gave this to me as a gift. As you can see, this is a pretty nice, pretty groovy, handmade rolling tray. Got a spot for my grinder, got a spot for my doobie, and a spot for the bud. I think this is awesome. I've had a rolling tray for years now from Raw, and it basically is just a tin lunch cafeteria style tray. This is far nicer. It's got a really cool little mark there. It looks like an anchor or some kind of a insignia. I didn't get a chance to ask Mike exactly what that was, but gave this to me as a gift. I really appreciate it. I think it's beautiful, and I think we're going to have some more of these available at the club potentially. I know we've got his book available at the club, so if you guys want, check that out. And I wanted to show this off. I think it's beautiful. Thank you very much, Mr. Mike. I'll be using it. I'll be getting it dirty.
I wonder what kind of wood that is.
I'm thinking it's log. It's heavy. It's wood.
Yeah. Okay, log. Yeah. That's a tree called log.
Yeah, that's definitely tree.
By their points, that's a tree. That's a log. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's got a lot of marbling, a lot of burl in it.
Could be a cypress or.
So I don't know. I can tell you that I don't think it's oak, but I'm probably wrong. It probably is oak. I don't know. I'm not an expert after they're already
Oak's
down.
usually pretty straight grained. So.
Yeah, it is, and I don't see that on there, so I'm not sure. I feel like a dummy, but I don't know. It's beautiful, I'll tell you that. It's got a nice lacquer finish on it. You kept the bark on there, keeping it natural.
It looks like you almost used a machine on it so well, so precisionally.
Might have used a router. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely looks like it was routed.
That's
No, very cool thing. I love stuff like that. I know that you can probably get something like this made out of plastic from China for 3 pennies on the dollar, but that's not what I want. I like somebody's time and efforts and individuality put in their work. I think it's cool. So, anyways, wanted to show that one off. It's a testament. It's a testament to the industry that, just like back in the old days when they had all the gold rush going on, and Mr. Levi Strauss, who is probably the most famous person from that era, had nothing to do with gold. But he sure did have something to do with the industry, didn't he? And, stuff like this goes along with what Levi Strauss was doing. So that's cool. Thank you, Mr. Mike. I really do appreciate it. And I will be getting it dirty. All right. Let's talk about some other states, okay? We've got, before I get into the states, I wanted to mention something related to how medical marijuana works. This was a new study that was just published in the Nature Medicine Journal. It's actually a German study, and it basically came out and said, look, we found that low regular doses of THC may help to keep our brains from slowing down as we get older. Basically, they did a little, placebo test. They did the mice test, and what they found out is that they ran the mice through the thing after smoking them down. I know that's layman's terms. The older mice did better after they smoked weed, and the younger mice did worse. So maybe that gets to tell you that, these developing brains probably, yes, stay away from marijuana unless it's an absolute necessity. But for us folks that are a little bit older and on our way to being older, marijuana could be a good thing in the fact that it slows down the aging process of your brain potentially and allows it to function and flow and work the way it did when you were a youngster.
I remember a few years ago they were actually advocating that they found nicotine actually might impede the process of Alzheimer's, but they were saying they weren't going to recommend smoking, but nicotine patches.
Yeah.
Now, is there a nicotine in marijuana, or is that very according to the strain or whatever?
No, actually there's not nicotine in marijuana. I can say that. There's a lot of compounds in there. The cannabinoids are the ones that are the effective, the ones that contain the psychoactive properties and also the medicinal properties. And there are other things in marijuana besides just cannabinoids, but nicotine is not one of them, thankfully.
Because I remember one time we in a physiology class in high school, we took goldfish and we took this nicotine, this chemical, like just a solution, and dropped that on the tail fin of that. The fish. It had wrapped up in wet paper towel, and you could see the capillaries change quite a bit under the microscope. And back then I was wondering why would people? They say they have to smoke, they smoke to relax them, and I went. To me, I always thought nicotine give you a rush. So how could it relax you at the same time? So
I think you're making a good point. I don't really want to get into cigarette smoking too much, but a lot of times, obviously, nicotine is a stimulant. But the majority of the people that use nicotine regularly associate it with being something that is relaxing and so on. But it is completely different than cannabis, even though they are both oftentimes smoked. They are completely different plants, and they have different chemical properties and obviously have different effects. I mean, that's one of the things that has been confirmed repetitively is that cannabis use, even when it's smoked, has not led to lung cancer, where on the other hand, obviously cigarettes has. So, I think that's part of the proof that you could look at for this. I'm not advocating that we all go out and start learning how to smoke, but I do want to let people know that there's a tremendous difference between the two different types of properties here. So, let me move back to the story here. Basically, it's saying Robert Kaminsky, whoops, got a little fuzz there, sorry. Dr. Kaminsky, director of the Institute for Integrative Toxicology at Michigan State University, tells Yahoo Beauty that while it's too soon to draw any conclusions from the research, there may be something to it. If low doses of THC decline in cognitive function in senior citizens, this could be beneficial. So I think that's pretty cool, especially the fact that this professor, even though this was a German study that was published online, they've gotten some feedback here from a professor from Michigan State University. So that's kind of cool. Kaminsky also notes that many diseases that cause a decline of cognitive function, such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, are thought to be due in part to chronic inflammation in the brain. Cannabinoids like THC have anti-inflammatory properties, he says, which may be beneficial for some older patients suffering from certain neurodegenerative diseases. So, pretty cool stuff. We know positively that cannabis does have anti-inflammatory properties, and you can see how that can be applied in this manner here. We just recently had a first-hand experience with someone here at the studio who had suffered from a broken bone and had used cannabis oil topically, and then was able to relieve the inflammation from the broken bone and also relieve some of the pain that was associated with the bone break. So, that was administered obviously transdermally, just put right on the skin. It wasn't smoked, it wasn't ingested. So the anti-inflammatory properties to cannabis are easily accessed, and they are certainly there and available. So that's some spectacular stuff, especially considering the alternative drugs that are prescribed for these anti-inflammatory actions. So anyways, that's good stuff. All right, moving on here, let's talk about some states. First state I want to talk about today is Florida. We got a lot of club members who like to go to Florida. Some of them live there sometimes. Florida has had medical marijuana. They have tried to expand their medical marijuana program. The medical marijuana program that they have right now is currently very, very limited access, very limited approval status, even more limited to actually produce and dispense. But they were trying to expand this down in Florida. But it hit a snag. And, really the biggest snag in this game in Florida is money, unfortunately. Seems that money seems to be too tempting for the folks that want to get marijuana through. And quite frankly, I think that when the money gets involved to that extent, it ruins everything. We've seen it happen in Ohio and in other states, and now it appears that it is happening in Florida as well. It says here, after 60 days, state lawmakers could not reach an agreement over the number of retail facilities allowed in the proposals. With no compromise over the legislation, the bill died, and part of the bill's creator blames the other part creator for the problems, basically saying that the lobbying efforts were the real reason that the legislation failed, and a group pushed the issue of limiting the number of dispensaries for growers at the last minute in order to force the state to issue more licenses in order to get rid of the original 7 growers allowed to dispense the drug across the state. So you've got an original proposal that says all marijuana will be dispersed through just 7 different growers that will be licensed by the state of Florida. Another group steps in at the last minute and says absolutely not. We need to have that expanded. We may need anywhere from 50 to 100 different growers to provide the cannabis across the state. So anyways, they couldn't reach an agreement, and because of that, the bill died. So ultimately, the expanded program did not happen, and they are back to the drawing board for medical marijuana in Florida. And right now, they are currently still working on the extremely limited program, which really doesn't provide relief to hardly anyone for medical marijuana. So once again, greed steps in the way and squashes everything, and let it be a lesson to all of us. All right, let's move on to the next state, Georgia. Just north of Florida there, Georgia. Governor Nathan Deal approved an expansion of the state's medical marijuana program on Tuesday, allowing people to be treated for an additional 6 medical conditions to possess cannabis oil. So in Georgia, it is a limited medical marijuana program as well. Similar to Florida, they are a CBD oil state only. So they can't have flowers, you can't have THC, it's very limited access, it has to be in oil form only. But at least they expanded the list of qualifying conditions, and now it includes autism, AIDS, Tourette's, and Alzheimer's. These are the new conditions that were added. So, and once again, I will point out that another state, besides Michigan, another states outside of Michigan, added autism to their list of qualifying conditions, while our Lieutenant Governor, Brian Calley, personally shot down the people's request to have autism added as a qualifying condition here in Michigan. So I'm going to keep preaching that because I don't want you guys to forget who screwed who, all right? But Georgia got it done. Georgia included autism along with AIDS, Tourette's, and Alzheimer's, and they also have other conditions that were already previously qualifying, such as like cancer, AIDS, end-of-stage life patients. And now they will be able to, these people, the new qualifying conditions, will be able to possess oil that is low in THC, predominantly containing CBD properties. So, and we've talked about the nuances that go along with CBD type legislation. I don't want to get into that today, but at least they have something. All right, it's a start. So kudos to Georgia. Good job. Keep moving on. Keep pressing. Hopefully you can get more access to more people soon. Okay. All right. Next state, moving on to Nevada. Let's go out west for a bit. Nevada is getting it done. All right. Nevada on Monday approved their temporary regulations. This is from marijuana.com. Potentially cultivating an early start for the state's adult use marijuana sales. So we're talking about recreational marijuana here. Rushed through the regulatory process by the Department of Taxation, recreational sales in Nevada are anticipated to begin before the 4th of July. So they are ready to go and raring to go. According to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the program is projected to generate more than $70 million for the state over the first 2 years. So that's $70 million in tax revenue generation. Dion Contine, director of the Nevada's Department of Taxation, views the new revenue stream as the most viable way of meeting Governor Sandoval's proposed budget for 2018. So there you go. Basically, Governor's got a new budget, and they are hinging it on getting the marijuana program rolled out and collecting an additional $70 million over a 2-year period for marijuana tax revenue generation. So pretty profound. Let's talk about their fees for a second, okay? So if you want to go out to Nevada, start up big business, be a marijuana entrepreneur, best of luck to you. Here's what you're going to need. Per the final draft of the proposed regulations, qualified applicants are required to pay a one-time, non-refundable application fee of $5,000 plus an additional licensing fee, depending on their role within the depending on their role within Nevada's recreational marijuana industry. Cultivators and dispensaries will be required to pay the following fees. So, first of all, you pay your $5,000. That's just the upfront app fee. And then, depending on what you're asking for, you've got an additional fee. Here's your additional fees: $20,000 fee for a retail establishment, $30,000 for a cultivation facility, $10,000 for a production/manufacturing facility, $15,000 for a testing facility, and $15,000 for a distributor license. So these are the additional fees that are imposed on people just for applying for the program, just to get licensed in Nevada as a recreational marijuana entrepreneur. Medical marijuana dispensaries in compliance with state and local regulations wanting to participate in the Early Start program must apply no later than May 31st, 2017. So get your apps in, folks. Bust it out, all right? Get out your money. Says here, ready to get things rolling as soon as possible. Clark County is scheduled to begin licensing by July 1st. And officials for the city of Las Vegas and North Las Vegas said Monday both municipalities plan to do the same. So they're ready to get it done in Nevada. They're ready to start taking your money. And they're ready to start collecting it as well. So kudos to Nevada, way to get it done. I do think that's a bit aggressive as far as the fees. Obviously, it's a fat cat game in Nevada. You're not going to play that game unless you've got some serious cash, because that's just for the licensing fee. You have not bought a single grow light or seed or bag of dirt yet. It's all yet to come. So good luck. Good luck. All right, moving on here. I'm going to move out of the United States for just a little minute and go up north to Toronto. All right, so Toronto, everybody knows, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Canada is about to legalize recreational marijuana. They're working on it. It's in their legislation right now. The Prime Minister, he's on board. They're going to make it happen. In the meantime, raids are still occurring on medical marijuana dispensaries and facilities in Toronto. And they recently happened just prior to the announcement that Canada was going to go ahead and legalize this for adult use. Granted, it has not been put into law yet, so it's not legal yet. These people weren't jumping the gun. These people were medical marijuana dispensaries. They were licensed within the city of Toronto. They were operating in compliance with their laws. However, the government stepped in Canada and decided that they were not in compliance and raided them in spite of that. So this is the story. This is from marijuana.com. The Toronto Dispensary Coalition, which serves as a governing body for medical cannabis clinics across the Greater Toronto Area, is steaming mad at the police and fighting back, demanding that the 90 different charges that have been laid against staff and owners of 45 dispensaries, that these charges get thrown out immediately. The charges were brought on as a result of one of the largest raids in Canadian history, dubbed Project Claudia. The highly excessive actions taken by police in City Hall were condemned by the majority of Torontoans as completely unnecessary and a waste of police and city resources. Coalition spokesperson Adolfo Gonzalez at a press conference said on Monday the city needs to realize they've made a major mistake and that they're ruining the lives of people that have families and that have futures. Gonzalez went on to say that most of these dispensaries were operating under the rules and regulations set out by the Canadian Association of Medical Cannabis Dispensaries. There's a civil suit that is being put together on behalf of the dispensaries who are banding together to reopen and clearly articulate to the city as well as the federal government that these are legitimate businesses that deserve to exist. It says here, a number of the businesses in the Women Grow Network were affected. They have all since reopened. And almost all Toronto dispensaries are reopening this week. It says here, when asked why Mayor John Tory and Toronto Police went ahead with Project Claudia, despite the recent federal court rulings that partially paved the way for dispensaries, Campbell did not mince words and said he was because of a licensed producer lobbying. Did you catch that, folks? Let me back up and read it again. When they asked the mayor and the police why they went ahead with their raids, Project Claudia, even in spite of the federal court rulings that are paving the way for these places to exist, they said it was because a licensed cannabis producer was lobbying them. So in other words, corporate competition couldn't handle the competition and instead employed the city to go ahead and shut their competition down for them. That's what basically is happening. So that's pretty profound. Let's make sure that doesn't happen here in Michigan, okay? And that's why I'm sharing the story with you folks now. Interesting information. All right, let's move on. Got one more state, one more place I want to cover. Going to move back to the United States here. Going to move all the way over out west to San Diego. San Diego, basically, a hotbed for medical marijuana, has been since 1996. They had a raid. Go figure. So here's the story. San Diego District Attorney, this is from the Cannabist.co. San Diego's district attorney has been ordered to return more than $100,000 received from medical marijuana businessman and his family 15 months after the drug agents raided the company and didn't charge anyone with a crime. It says here, the Union Tribune reported Monday that a judge issued the order 6 weeks after lawyers representing Mr. James Sladek argued that the money must be returned. Sladek owns MedWest Distribution, a firm that supplies medical pot shops with cannabis. The judge wrote that after more than a year of investigation, there's no indication that criminal charges will be filed against Mr. Sladek. DA Bonnie Dumanis has used the state and federal civil asset forfeiture rules for years to confiscate millions of dollars from drug suspects. Her office says Dumanis is considering an appeal of the judge's ruling. So, pretty interesting. They bust the person, they take the money through civil asset forfeiture, they never charge them with a crime. A year and a half goes by, almost a year and a half, and so the individual presses the judge and says, hey, tell them to give my stuff back if they're not going to charge me with a crime. And the judge agrees, it's had more than enough time, but yet, in the face of that, the prosecutor says, well, we might appeal the judge's ruling. Well, why wouldn't the prosecutor press charges? If that's the case, why wouldn't they just press charges? I think this highlights the issue that we have going on here with civil asset forfeiture. I think it is something that is rampant across the country, and it is something that is being misused by law enforcement to an extreme level. We had recent laws passed here in Michigan last year regarding civil asset forfeiture that virtually did nothing. They require our departments to report on what they're taking and where the funds go, but they don't modify the practices. We still have it by law here in this country that people can have their assets taken away and never have a crime charged against them. And that's wrong. They need to have that changed. It was developed back in the Reagan era when we had the Just Say No to Drugs campaign, and they were trying to figure out ways to stop drug dealers who they couldn't bust. Unfortunately, these practices have now broadened and have been expanded by these police departments and by our government in order to seize these assets, and in often cases no charges are ever filed and the assets are not returned. Here's a little blip for you. Since 2007, the DEA has taken $3.2 billion in cash from people without ever charging them with a crime. $3.2 billion. It's a pretty big chunk of change. I believe in our law enforcement. I believe they need to do what they got to do, but I also believe that some of our laws are incorrect and they need to be changed. This is one of them. All right. Civil asset forfeiture is a big problem across the country, and here in Michigan, we're ranked one of the worst states in the nation when it comes to our policies and practices for handling civil asset forfeiture. So this is a pretty important issue. It is affecting people all across the country, and not just people that are dealing with medical marijuana. It happens to all kinds of folks. There was an incident where there was a pastor who had received money from his congregation so they could go about furthering his mission, let's just say. But at any rate, he was traveling from one state to another, was pulled over with cash in his vehicle. It was seized as suspected drug money from the pastor. So this is affecting people from all walks of life. It is not just isolated to marijuana people or medical marijuana, and it is an important issue that should be addressed on a legislative level. It is not something that our police officers can do anything about. It is something that our legislators can do something about. And until it is addressed at that level, we can expect no change. All right? So if you want to be the change, make a phone call. All right? Talk to your legislators. Tell them what's important to you. All right, so there's an example, $100,000. Judge says give it back. Good job, judge. Hopefully they're able to get that executed. All right, moving on here. That's all the stories I pretty much have for you. You can check out more. I personally like the cannabis.co. You can check that out. Got all kinds of great stories on there. Leaf fly is also another one. Before I do go, I just want to make another mention quickly about our soup kitchen coming up here at the end of the month, last Friday of the month. Definitely could use your guys' help if you could show up for that. We really appreciate it. You do get fed for feeding others, so it's pretty cool. Give some, take some. And I mentioned the move again. Man, I'm excited about the new club. This is going to be spectacular. When we started out back at the old club, which is now our Ed Center, for those of you that remember, pulling back the curtain and walking through, being in total shock because you've never seen anything like that before in your life, get ready to be shocked again. It's going to be just as awesome, if not even better. And we're going to be taking all the stuff that we used to do at the club. We're going to continue doing that, and we're going to do more. All right. So this is going to be exciting. 1st of June, get ready. Get your Google Maps out so you can figure out where this place is at. 6340 North Genesee. And I hope to see you there. Thanks for being with me today on the podcast. Definitely appreciate it. John, thanks for being here at allpointstv.com, making it happen. Make sure you guys check out allpointstv.com for all the other cool podcasts that we've got going on. If you want to know what's happening here in the city of Flint, this is the place to check it out and to find out. Thanks for joining me today on the Genesee County Compassion Club Show. I'm your host, Jeremy. You guys have an awesome week. See you.